What happens when two of Hollywood's most adored stars sit down for what should have been an easy, feel-good conversation, only for everything to derail in real time? What begins as playful small talk suddenly twists into one of the most awkward, stomach-tightening exchanges daytime TV has ever seen. And trust me, you'll want to hear exactly how it unfolded. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us what you think sparked the tension. The show opens with a warm, welcoming buzz in the studio. Valerie Bertinelli steps onto the set, and Drew Barrymore greets her with that upbeat, luminous energy she's famous for. She rushes in with open arms, pulling Valerie into a hug that feels perfectly friendly on the surface. The audience cheers, the lighting is soft, and for a moment, everything suggests this is going to be a smooth, pleasant interview between two women who spent decades navigating fame, reinvention, and public scrutiny. But watch closely, because the shift begins almost immediately. Drew settles into her seat, leaning forward with that wide-eyed curiosity she always brings to her interviews. "Valerie, it is so good to have you here. I feel like we have so much to talk about." Valerie smiles back, polite and poised, but there's a slight guardedness in her expression, the kind that hints she's bracing for something. Then Drew makes her first move. With that soft, confessional tone she uses when she wants to dive deeper, Drew says, "I've been following your journey, especially these last few years. The divorce, the rediscovery, the cookbooks, you've been so open. It's inspiring." Valerie smiles again, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Thank you. It's definitely been a journey." And just when the conversation seems like it'll stay safe, Drew pushes further. "I love how honest you've been," she continues. "You really don't hold back. You share the good, the bad, the messy. People connect with that." Valerie nods, choosing her words carefully. "When you've lived as long as we have, there's no point pretending everything is perfect. Life is messy. Authenticity matters." But then Drew pauses. That kind of deliberate silence talk show hosts use when they're about to walk into more dangerous territory. And here's where the temperature in the room drops. Speaking of authenticity, Drew says, "I want to ask you something. You've talked a lot about body image, your relationship with food, feeling like you were never enough. Do you think that came from Hollywood, or was it something inside you?" Valerie's face tightens. Just a tiny shift, but impossible to miss. "I think it's both," she says slowly. "The industry absolutely has impossible standards, but we internalize those messages. They become part of us." But Drew leans in even closer, pushing again. "Right, but here's what I'm curious about. You were on a hit sitcom for years. You were America's sweetheart. And then you talked about feeling like you disappeared. Do you think you put too much pressure on yourself to maintain that image? Was it really the industry, or was it you trying to live up to something unrealistic?" A beat of silence. You can practically hear the audience shift in their seats. Valerie's jaw tightens. "That's a complicated question, Drew. When you're young and constantly told your value is tied to how you look and how likable you are, it doesn't feel like a choice. It becomes part of the system." Drew nods quickly. Too quickly. Sure. But you also made choices, right? We all do. I'm just wondering if, looking back, you think you could have been kinder to yourself. Or if you feel like you had to go through all of that to get to where you are. And this is where the smile fully disappears from Valerie's face. "Drew," she says slowly, "I'm not sure what you're getting at. Are you asking if I think my suffering was necessary?" Drew realizes she's hit a nerve, but instead of easing off, she leans in harder, in that well-meaning but painfully tone-deaf way that sometimes makes her interviews go sideways. And from here, things only get more uncomfortable. But then Drew pushes again, her tone soft, but her words cutting sharper than she probably realizes. No, she insists. "I'm just saying that sometimes we create our own narratives. And I'm wondering if the version of your story you share is the whole truth, or if maybe there's another angle you haven't considered." And just like that, the air shifts. Valerie straightens in her chair, her fingers gripping the armrests. Her voice is low but steady. "Another perspective? Drew, this is my life. These are my experiences. I'm not crafting a narrative. I'm telling the truth about what happened to me." Drew nods rapidly, trying to soften the blow. Of course. Of course. I'm not questioning that. I just think it's interesting how we all remember things differently. And sometimes when we're hurting, we see life through a certain lens. I'm curious if, now with some distance, you see things any differently. The room goes still. Even the audience senses the tension thickening. Valerie's tone sharpens, not loud, but controlled with effort. Drew, I've done years of therapy. I've put in the work. I'm very clear on what happened and how it shaped me. And I don't appreciate the implication that I'm misremembering or exaggerating my own history. Drew's eyes widen as she lifts her hands defensively. I'm not saying that. I'm really not. I'm just trying to have a deeper conversation about trauma, how we process it, how we retell it. I think that's important. It is important, Valerie snaps, her voice finally breaking to the polite veneer, which is why I'm intentional about how I talk about it. And I didn't come here to be psychoanalyzed. I came here to talk about my cookbook, my life now, not to have you question whether my trauma was real enough or healed fast enough. The silence is suffocating. But instead of backing down, Drew leans forward, her face softening in a way that somehow only makes things worse. Valerie, okay, I hear you. I do. But can I say one last thing? Because I think it matters. Valerie exhales sharply, her lips press into a thin line. Go ahead. I've been very open about my own struggles, Drew says, and there's an unmistakable defensive edge creeping into her voice. My childhood, my parents, addiction, all of it. And what I've learned is that sometimes we cling to our pain because it becomes part of our identity. And I'm just wondering if maybe, and I say this with love, maybe you've held on to some of that pain longer than you needed to. The audience doesn't move. No one even breathes. Valerie stares at Drew, stunned. Excuse me? Drew hesitates for only a second before doubling down. I'm just saying, I've heard you talk about the same thing so many times. The divorce, the body image issues, the feeling of never being enough. And at some point, don't you think it's time to move on? To step into who you are now instead of dragging all that with you? Valerie's voice turns icy. Drew, you don't get to decide when I'm done healing. You don't get to tell me I've talked about something too much or that I should move past it. Everyone heals at their own pace. And the fact that you feel comfortable telling me how I should handle my trauma is incredibly presumptuous. I'm not telling you how to live your life. Drew fires back, her voice rising now too. I'm having a conversation. That's what we do on this show. We have real, honest conversations. Real conversations require respect. Valerie says, the words landing like a slap. And what you're doing right now isn't respectful. You're judging my healing process while pretending it's concern or curiosity. But to me, it feels like you think you figured out something about my life that I'm too blind to see. And that's condescending. A flush rises in Drew's cheeks. That's not what I think at all. I believe you're strong and intelligent. But when you're in the public eye, sometimes you get trapped in the version of yourself people expect. And I'm asking if you feel that pressure. Valerie doesn't hesitate. Of course I feel pressure. And the moment hangs in the air, electric and dangerous, like something is about to break. Valerie doesn't hesitate. But that pressure doesn't erase the truth of what I've lived through. And it doesn't mean I'm performing my trauma for entertainment. This is my life. Drew, these things actually happened to me. And I have every right to talk about them, however often I choose, without someone questioning whether I'm doing correctly. Drew inhales sharply. And when she speaks again, her tone has shifted into something fragile, something almost wounded. You know what, Valerie? I think you're being really defensive right now, and I don't understand why. I'm on your side. I've always been on your side. I'm just trying to have an honest conversation. Valerie fixes her with steady, unflinching stare. An honest conversation requires listening. Drew, you're not listening. You keep saying you're curious. But what you're actually doing is pushing your own narrative onto mine. Just because you process your pain one way doesn't mean that's the universal blueprint. I'm not projecting, Drew insists, her voice trembling now, cracks forming in her composure. I'm trying to connect with you. I wanted us to share something real, something meaningful. But instead you're shutting down and acting like I'm attacking you. Valerie lets out a short, dry laugh, the kind that carries zero humor. Drew, you literally just told me that I'm clinging to my pain because it's become part of my identity, and that I should move on. How is that not an attack? Because I'm saying it with love. Drew pleads, her voice tinged with desperation. I'm saying it because I care. Because I see you hurting, and I want you to be free. I am free, Valerie says, steady and clear. I don't need you to save me. I don't need you to fix me. I'm handling my life just fine. What I do need is for you to respect my journey, not try to reshape it to match your idea of what healing should look like. The studio is dead silent. Every breath feels loud. Somewhere offstage, a producer is probably having a meltdown, wondering how to pull the show back from the brink. Drew softens her voice to a whisper. Valerie, I'm sorry if I upset you. That wasn't my intention. I really do admire you. I think you've done incredible work. I just wanted to go deeper. A deeper conversation is fine, Valerie says, her voice tight, controlled, simmering. But that's not what you're doing. You're interrogating me. You're questioning my choices, my progress, my truth. And you may not realize this, but this is exactly the kind of thing that keeps women trapped. We're told we're too emotional, too sensitive, too slow to get over it. And when we don't meet those expectations, we're accused of wallowing or clinging to our trauma. Drew opens her mouth, searching for a defense. Nothing comes out. That's not, she starts. But it is, Valerie cuts in. Maybe you don't mean it that way, but that's how it lands. And the fact that you keep defending yourself instead of acknowledging that your words hurt me, that tells me everything I need to know about this conversation. Drew's eyes glisten now, voice cracking. I just wanted to help. I thought maybe we could connect through our shared pain. Our experiences aren't the same, Valerie replies quietly, firmly. And that's fine, but you can't use your experience as a yardstick for mine. That's not fair. It's not compassionate. And it's not connection. For a moment, something flickers across Drew's face, as if she finally hears Valerie. She nods slowly, but then she ruins it. I still think there's something here you're not acknowledging, Drew says softly. I think there's a reason you're reacting this strongly, something you're not ready to see. Valerie's eyes widen, disbelief flooding her features. Are you serious? I'm just saying, Drew continues. If you weren't still holding on to something, this wouldn't feel so triggering. Your reaction is telling me. She never finishes that sentence, because Valerie stands. The audience gasps. Drew freezes, her face a mix of shock and panic. Wait, what? Valerie, please sit. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Valerie says, her voice steady but blazing with quiet fury. You're not listening. You're not hearing me. And I'm not going to sit here and be told that my perfectly valid response to being disrespected is proof that I'm the problem. Drew instinctively rises too, reaching out a hand toward her, the moment teetering on the edge of complete collapse. Drew's voice cracks as she reaches toward Valerie. Please don't walk away. This is exactly what I mean. You're shutting down instead of staying here and working through it. Valerie stops mid-stride and turns back, eyebrows lifted in sheer disbelief. Shutting down? Drew, I'm setting a boundary. That's not the same thing. I don't owe you my emotional labor just because we're on camera. And I definitely don't have to sit here and be psychoanalyzed by someone who thinks they've got the universal solution to healing. I don't think I have all the answers, Drew says softly, her voice breaking at the edges. I genuinely believe we could learn something from each other if you would give me space to explain, if you'd be open to hearing what I'm trying to say. I have been open, Valerie replies, her tone steady but edged with exhaustion. I've been patient. I've allowed you to push and pry. But every time I tell you that you've crossed a line, you respond by telling me I'm being defensive or triggered. Do you not see how manipulative that is? The word lands like a grenade. The audience audibly inhales. Drew goes pale. Manipulative? Valerie, I'm not manipulating you. I'm being honest. I'm being vulnerable. No, Valerie's voice is calm, almost terrifyingly controlled. You're weaponizing vulnerability. You're packaging criticism as concern, and when I push back, you cast yourself as the wounded one and make me the unreasonable party. That is manipulation, whether you intended it or not. Drew's hands shake. Tears spill despite her attempts to blink them away. I can't believe you're accusing me of that. I invited you here. I supported you. I gave you this platform. And now you're calling me manipulative in front of my audience. You invited me here. Valerie shoots back, her voice rising. And then you dismiss my experience as a moment they didn't fit your narrative. You don't get to call that support. Not when it comes with strings attached. Not when it's conditional on me healing the way you think I should. That's not fair, Drew says, her tone tightening. I never said there were conditions. I just wanted a real conversation, a deep conversation. That's what I do on this show. Maybe that's a problem, Valerie counters. Maybe you think every conversation has to turn into a therapy session. Maybe sometimes people just need to be heard, not dissected. Maybe the kind of thing you could do is simply accept someone's truth at face value, instead of digging for hidden wounds you think you discovered. Drew swipes at her eyes, smearing her mascara. Her composure is unraveling fast. I'm a talk show host, Valerie. My job is to ask questions, to dig. If you didn't want that kind of conversation, why agree to come on at all? I agreed, Valerie replies, because I thought we were going to talk about my work, my future, the things I'm building now, not because I want to become your on-air therapy project. And the fact that you think this interrogation counts as depth is, honestly, it's worrying. The camera audience is utterly still, hooked, horrified, unable to look away. A few whispers ripple across the room. Others raise their phones, filming despite the rules. It's the kind of live TV meltdown that becomes legend. Drew takes a step toward her, voice trembling, pleading. Valerie, can we please sit down? Let's reset. Let's start over. I know I said something wrong. I know I did. And I want to fix it. But I can't fix anything if you walk away. You can't fix this by pretending to start over, Valerie replies. You fix it by acknowledging what you did, by admitting you don't actually know what's best for me, by recognizing that I am the authority on my own life. I do respect that, Drew insists, a hint of desperation rising again. I swear I do. But sometimes we need someone to challenge us, to push us out of our comfort zone. That's how we grow. Valerie slowly shakes her head. There's a difference between challenging someone and belittling them. And today, you belittled me. You've implied I'm stuck, that I'm clinging to pain, that my emotional response is evidence of some unresolved issue. That's not challenging. Drew, that's judgment. I'm not judging you, Drew protests, frustration crackling under her words. God, I'm so tired of people accusing me of judging them when all I'm trying to do is connect. I put myself out there every single day. Her voice shakes, not just with sadness now, but with the sting of her own unraveling. Drew's voice cracks as she pushes forward, frustration bubbling over. She says she's always vulnerable, always open, always sharing every part of herself. And now she feels like she's being punished for it. But Valerie cuts in sharply, her tone slicing through the air. This isn't about Drew's openness. This isn't about her feelings at all. This is about how Drew has treated her today. And yet, Valerie snaps, you're already twisting it back to yourself. Somehow you've cast yourself as the victim. Again. Drew's mouth falls open, stunned. I'm not playing the victim, she fires back. I'm defending myself. You're the one coming at me. Valerie lets out an exhausted sigh. She insists she isn't attacking. She's holding Drew accountable. There's a difference, she says, but one Drew apparently isn't used to hearing. You're so accustomed to everyone praising you, calling you authentic, calling you genuine. Valerie says that the second someone challenges you, you crumble. Drew forces her voice into a calm, controlled tone. Maybe I crossed a line, she admits, but maybe you're so guarded about your past that you can't handle anyone poking at it. Maybe you built your whole identity around being hurt, and that's why this conversation scares you. The audience collectively inhales. Even Drew looks horrified at the words that just escaped her. She covers her mouth immediately, whispering, I didn't mean that. But Valerie's expression freezes over. She has never looked colder. You absolutely meant it, she says quietly. That's exactly what you've been thinking all along. And now it's finally out in the open. Valerie accuses her of hiding judgment behind fake empathy, of pretending to care while actually believing Valerie is clinging to her trauma. Drew insists she cares. She says that's why this argument hurts so much. But Valerie shakes her head. If Drew cared, she wouldn't have weaponized that accusation. Drew reaches out, trembling, begging for them to talk things out like adults. Valerie laughs, a bitter, humorless sound. Adults don't say something cruel and then act like an apology wipes it away, she says. You just told me on national television that I've turned my trauma into my personality. Do you realize how damaging that is? Drew's voice softens to almost a whisper. She says she lashed out because she felt attacked. She says everyone makes mistakes. Valerie nods once, but her eyes stay cold. Mistakes can be forgiven, she says, but truth disguised as a mistake cannot be unheard. Drew has spent the entire interview secretly judging her, Valerie says, and wrapping that judgment in concern. Drew's frustration finally breaks through. She says she was trying to be gentle, trying to understand, but Valerie rejected every attempt. Valerie fires back that nothing about Drew's questions was gentle. It was passive-aggressive. If Drew had a real problem with the way Valerie talks about her life, she should have been honest instead of crafting this emotional ambush. Drew insists she only wanted connection. Valerie says she only walked onto that stage expecting a simple conversation about her cookbook and her current life, not an interrogation of her emotional wounds. Drew throws up her hands, overwhelmed. She says Valerie twists every word, assumes the worst intentions, and treats her like an enemy no matter what she says. Valerie's voice turned quiet, almost icy. She says she didn't see Drew as an enemy when she walked in, but Drew's behavior has shown her something she can't ignore. Drew acts like her worldview is the only correct one. Drew shuts down the moment she's challenged. And when things get uncomfortable, Drew lashes out with the same harshness she claims to despise in others. Drew's voice trembles as she insists that Valerie has the wrong idea. That's not who I am, she says, her expression crumpling. But Valerie doesn't waver. She calmly replies that maybe she doesn't know Drew personally, but she knows exactly what happened today, and she refuses to put herself through any more of it. She turns to leave, and panic flashes across Drew's face. Drew calls after her, louder than she intends. So that's it? You're just walking out? You're really going to leave in the middle of my show and make me look like the villain? Valerie stops and pivots back, her voice chillingly steady. Drew, you didn't need my help to look like the villain. You managed that on your own. I'm just choosing not to participate anymore. And the fact that you're worried about how you appear instead of how you made me feel tells me everything I need to know. Drew protests, insisting she cares about Valerie's feelings too, but she also cares about her show, her reputation, the fallout this walkout will cause. Valerie's response is crisp, almost surgical. Drew should have considered all of that before launching into the pointed comments that cross a line. She says Drew spoke with the confidence of someone who assumed she was right, and now she's dealing with the aftermath. Drew's producer edges onto the stage, unsure how to intervene. Drew glances between him and Valerie like she's drowning. What do you want me to do? How can I fix this? She pleads. Valerie's answer lands like a door closing. Nothing. Not right now. She explains that maybe once Drew has reflected deeply on her behavior, really examined her intentions, then a conversation might be possible. But not today. Today, she needs to walk away. Drew's voice shrinks into something small and frightened. She begs Valerie not to escalate this, not to turn it into a spectacle. She suggests they can course correct, talk about the cookbook, smooth things over. Valerie slowly shakes her head. You can't unring a bell, Drew. You can't drop a grenade and then ask everyone to pretend the explosion didn't happen. She says she won't sit there and smile through a meaningless chat about recipes after Drew essentially told the world that she sees Valerie as someone profiting off her pain. Drew scrambles. I didn't say that. Not like that. But Valerie shuts the argument down. The words didn't matter. The implication did. And the fact that Drew is clinging to technicalities proves she still doesn't understand. She's not remorseful about the harm. She's only upset that Valerie isn't quietly absorbing for the sake of the show. Drew tries once more to speak, but nothing comes. She looks utterly lost, as if she can't trace the steps that led to this moment or comprehend how everything unraveled so fast. The audience sits completely still, caught between shock and secondhand heartbreak. Valerie takes a long, steadying breath. She explains that she came in good faith, expecting a supportive conversation, but instead found veiled criticism masked as compassion and barbed commentary dressed up as honesty. She says she's done pretending that this kind of treatment is acceptable, not at this stage of her life, and not on national television. Then she delivers a final blow. If your goal is to make people feel understood and valued, you're missing the mark. What you're actually doing is making people feel small. And with that, she turns and walks off the stage. Her footsteps echo in the stunned quiet, like punctuation marks on an argument that can't be taken back. Drew remains where she is, tears streaming freely, staring out at the audience with a hollow, devastated expression. She opens her mouth several times, searching for something, anything, to say, but no words come. Finally, she looks to her producer and whispers something the cameras can't catch. He nods and motions the crew. Drew glances one last time toward the exit, where Valerie disappeared, then down at her trembling hands. As the weight of everything that just happened settles around her,